So it's the 27th of March, and today is the 7th anniversary of the first thing that I planted on this allotment plot. And I always like this anniversary rather than the first day that I got the plot, because I don't know, just planting feels like it's more really the start of my gardening life. I had done a tiny bit of gardening, had like one raised bed or something in the kitchen, what is now the kitchen garden back at home, and it's been greatly expanded since then. But you know, I grew a little bit of salad in sort of spring and summer, but you know, it was just enough for say one meal a week or something like that. But I knew that I wanted to do gardening. I'd been retired for about a year, and I'd become convinced that if I was going to fix my health problems, and at that time, you know, I was still suffering quite badly from an autoimmune disease. I was still in a lot of pain, a lot of brain fog. I was often on crutches and I was using sticks and things like that. And I was still pretty ill. I knew that I needed to do a few things. You know, I needed to calm my life down. I needed to spend more time in kind of slow, gentle movement. I needed to get my hands in the soil and get more fresh air and sunshine. And I needed to grow and eat a lot more fruit and veg. So that was kind of the motivators that got me gardening. And so right from the very beginning, pretty much, I knew that I was going to be a year-round gardener because I was just totally focused on growing a fresh food diet and just enjoying myself and relaxing. I wanted to enjoy myself and relax all year round, and I wanted to eat fresh food all year round. So I think, you know, one of the first things I even built was the little low tunnels that are still in one piece today. They're sort of patched and repaired sort of many times, but I'm sort of hoping they'll last at least 8 years. And then towards the end of that first year, I built the first batch of coal frames, and I was so pleased that I did, because you know, coal frames are so much easier in a way than low tunnels, because you can take the tops off them and put them away when you get to sort of April time, and you don't need the protection that the low tunnels or the coal frames afford. And so now I only really use the low tunnels in summer for peppers, melons and courgettes, or other sort of summer squashes, and all the coal frames, you know, they all get stored away next to me in the down the side of the polytunnel. So I have harvested £52,000 worth of food, and you know, I don't weigh it and, you know, price up each individual thing that I harvest, because you know, life's way too short to be doing that. What I did was just, you know, right at the sort of very beginning, in the early days, for about 3 months when I was super keen, I did do that. And I kind of did it, I think, in the kind of spring through sort of summer sort of time, sort of late spring through sort of summer. And I boxed up the food that I'd harvested into these 2-litre containers that I got from Home Bargains for £1, and I had lots of them, you know, 100 of them or more even. And I tallied up the number of boxes that I'd filled, and I tallied up the value of the harvest, and I valued it using Riverford Organics prices, which are high, you know, but I mean, I am growing high quality organic food, so you know, it seemed to me that that was the best comparison, not sort of cheap supermarket food, because that's not what I'm growing. But if you know that, so probably that £52,000, you know, if you were buying that from Aldi, maybe that would be more like £20,000 or something like that, but I'm not. So and I've forgotten where I was going now. So I came up with a total amount of food that I'd harvested over those few months, and the value of that food, And I just divided the total value of the food by the number of harvest boxes that I'd filled, and that gave me an average value, not cost. I wasn't selling it at cost. An average value in pounds, pounds sterling, and that's what I've used ever since. And so when I get a harvest box, I ascribe that value to it. And so this week we harvested, I don't know, 65 of those boxes. And so I take that and multiply it by £2 or whatever the number is. It's all done in my database, so I don't even remember. And that gave me the harvest value for that week. And that's what I used in that tally. And I don't take it very seriously. But it's useful as a comparison from year to year. And it's useful as a way of kind of not ever thinking about money anymore when it comes to gardening, because, as I say, I've harvested £52,000 worth of food, and I've probably spent, I don't know, maybe £5,000 or something like that on growing that food over those 7 years, and that is pretty good profit. We haven't eaten £52,000 worth of food because we've given a lot of it away. We gave a lot of it away during the COVID period to housebound, elderly, and or otherwise housebound friends and family. So that was just a gift, really, to the community. And right now we eat about half of it, and we give the rest of it to our immediate family. So it's not all a reduction off our food bill, and obviously we wouldn't always buy organic river food produce because we wouldn't be able to afford it. So of that, what I normally tend to do is I take that sort of whatever it is for a year, say £10,000 worth of food that we harvested, and I take the proportion that we eat, so that's, let's say, £5,000 worth of fruit and veg, and then I halve that again. And that's what I considered to be the saving off the food bill. So that's like £2,500 a year, for example, if we harvested £10,000 in a year. And I bank that money. And I use that money to fund investments on the allotment. And some of those investments are to grow more food, and a lot of those investments are to make life just more pleasurable and beautiful and convenient and easy. And the nice thing about it is that that bank account has got a lot of money in it now, and so I never think about money anymore when it comes to the allotment. It's a zero cost hobby, and that is very freeing, because it wouldn't otherwise kind of be able to justify that sort of investment. But now we know that it's not costing us any money. It's really easy to do. And it allows us to be very generous and give a lot of food away to fellow allotment holders and our family and a few friends. And I'm kind of using the rest of that kind of gardening war chest, for my kind of long-term plans as I sort of slide into slow decline in my 70s and 80s, to do some big structural upgrades to the kitchen garden back at home. So and those could be pretty expensive because I've got some nice grand plans for those. So so that's kind of where I'm at now, and it's nice to sort of always reflect. Every year I try to grow either more food or the same amount of food out of a decreasing amount of growing area. And I really like that process. I like the challenge of that process, and the amount of growing area that I'm using is reducing, primarily because I'm gradually transitioning to more perennials, and the yield from perennials is lower, but they're easier to look after, and that's what I want as I'm getting older. I gradually want to do less and less gardening work, maybe more pottering around, chatting to allotment neighbours and things like that, but I want to do less work. And so I'm just sort of gradually transitioning to more perennial crops. I'll still grow annual crops, of course, but where I can, and where I think it enhances my experience and enjoyment of gardening, I'm putting perennials in, and that means a lot more fruit bushes, for example. It means a lot more strawberries, it means a lot more trees. It doesn't at the moment mean a lot more flowers, because we're not allowed to grow flowers on this allotment site unless they're for human consumption, sustenance. So I do grow a few flowers for sustenance, but not just for decoration. But we do grow flowers at home in the potager garden, front garden, because we want that to look pretty. But I think that, ornamental vegetable gardens look really beautiful anyway. So I think that's everything I wanted to say, just to mark that little anniversary and give you a little idea of the sort of way that I'm going. My name's Steve, this is the Seaside Kitchen Garden and Allotment channel, and I'll see you soon.